To say that, oh, people aren't reading blogs is just nonsense. I am reading blogs. I'm here. I'm one of 6 people, and Dina's just said the same. I read blogs that are blogs that I follow, but then I also discover blogs that have got information. And I'm guessing that some of these blogs that I've discovered with information are just the sort of thing that you're talking about, that you do yourself for your own videos of posting your transcripts. So it works.
I like big blogs and I cannot lie. No, okay. Well, I'm not going to go into that because I don't want to get demonetized. But, but I do like me some blogs. So I wanted to put a question out to my fellow Ps to find out whether you guys are like blogalicious. Do you like blogs? Are you doing a blog? If you have one, did you start one? We blogging, baby. Let's go.
I started a blog a while ago, and I'm considering going back to it again. Okay. But I would argue newsletters over blogs. So let me just throw down right now. Blogs are fine for getting people to traffic to your website, but I think for engagement, I think for membership and building eyes, you need a newsletter over a blog. There, I said it.
I'd say that those two are very different things. So a newsletter is to engage with your existing database, your email database that you've got. You're sending out a newsletter to the people that you're already connected with. We talk about YouTube being like the second largest search engine, the largest being Google, which are both the same company, obviously. But in terms of promoting your video content as content creators, actually, a blog can be the best way to funnel people into your videos that aren't actually looking for you on YouTube itself. And that's something that I've not been doing, but is definitely on my list of things that I want to do. I basically want to create a blog post for every video I've ever done, so that, and potentially using the AI capabilities that we talked about way back last week, to actually generate some of that, some of those descriptions and things like that. But so that people are finding your video content and the stuff we're creating in a video sense on the web, on a blog, and then that feeds them into the video, and maybe even feeds them into your mailing list, so that then they're available to receive your newsletter. They're two very different things.
Booyaka. Go ahead. That's what I'm talking about. I'm kind of already doing that. I started to do that when I started creating all of my evergreen content. Oh, goodness, maybe a couple years ago. And so with every episode, there is a blog component as well as a podcast component to it. I just haven't figured out my plan to kind of distribute it and do all the different things yet. So I'm working on that plan, but I love the blog because it's a long form that then begets all the other pieces of the things that I create. So, I just love it, but, does anyone else have a blog that they're using? Just jump in.
I'm pretty sure that you could be a child blogger. I've been writing on the internet since I was in diapers, it feels like. And I don't create dedicated content just for a blog anymore, because I just don't think the results yield the I'm trying to say something like it's just not worth it. But what I do instead is I post the transcripts of my live streams and the videos that I do underneath my videos on my website. So all of my natural verbiage, sentences that incorporate all the search terms that people might be looking for are full in my website. So people will find that stuff. What'll happen is nobody wants to read articles anymore. I'm one of the weirdos that does, because that's the background I come from. But most people want to watch things. But in order to do the SEO part, you need the content that is going to be expressed in the video to be in the blog. So that's the transcript. So that's the way that I do it in order to make sure that I still have the #1 search engine in the world accessing my stuff. And people do find me through my websites for sure in that respect, but they don't consume that content. They just kind of find me and then they go watch videos. And that's just fine for me, because I'm not spending any extra energy to make that content. That's my approach.
Yeah, we've had our blog up for 10, 12 years, and we do 5 or 6 articles a month about generic marketing things. I don't know if it does any good at all, but we've been doing it so long, it seems silly not to do it because it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to generate 5 or 6 articles a month and put them up. And I'm sure we get something out of it, but I don't think it's a lot. I don't think it's a lot at all.
And I think to Keely's point, the blog really is for the robots. It's for them to read it so that they can come back to your stuff. Right?
Yeah.
So, it's a way to still, become an authority in that respect.
You're supposed to actually write for the reader. You're not supposed to write for. I know what you're supposed to do, but I know what people do versus what you're supposed to do. The stuff we put out is actually for people that want to read it. I don't really, SEO is such a beatdown. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it effectively or correctly or.
You've mentioned before, Rich, about how part of the reason for doing this is so that when people actually do find you and then they go and look you up on the on your website, whatever, they can see that you're active and see the history of it. One area where I used to have a blog was with an architectural design and construction company, and so I would blog there about the progress of all the builds that we were doing. And the reason for that is I got to articulate my thoughts and things like that about what it was we were building. And so people who were potential clients who might have wanted us to build their dream house in Thailand, for example, there's lots of horror stories about builders and things like that over here because they don't have the same sort of standards of build and things like that. Whereas having a blog for me to actually demonstrate, this is the process we go through, this is my thought process, and this is how we manage builds. It is something that, that then from a point of view of a potential client coming in and seeing that and getting to see your thought process, that I think has a huge amount of value. And I'm guessing, Rich, that's going to be similar for you.
In that use case, it's fantastic. In that use case, it's fantastic, Alec, the way you're doing it, where you're actually talking about work you're doing. And maybe we need to do more of that, more case study type stuff to show what's effective and what's not effective and things like that.
Well, all right. Well, I have a quick question. Well, what inspires you really? So Alec, you were doing this before, right? I'm kind of new to it. So, and I'm enjoying it. I kind of the reason why I like it is because I could kind of think through something, an idea. Once I have the idea, now I'm like, okay, I'm thinking about the process of, how I'm going to be able to communicate this idea, and then it being in long form, then I could then chop it up and make short form content out of it, from the content creator side. So I guess the question I have would, for anyone else who have that experience or who want to do it, is what inspires you, or how are you inspired to, to kind of go? I mean, what is it? What is the thing other than just putting your thoughts down? Do you have a plan in mind for how you want to, use this platform to maybe create an authority? I like that use case with engineering and how you did it that way, but I'm thinking for other creators, how can we use this tool? This is just one of the many tools that we have. How can we use this tool to help us, further what we're doing?
For me, I'm answering questions. So whether people need to understand how to do something in Discord, or they want to understand how to make a decision on the hockey pitch as an umpire, they're asking me questions. They want information that's going to help them do that thing better. And so anything that I produce is in reply to that. That builds my credibility, my authority, all that kind of thing, the know, like, and trust. But for me, it doesn't make sense in those two subject areas, and that's not true for everybody, but it doesn't make sense for me not to put video with that, because there's so much visual information that needs to go along with that information. So that's why I'm video first now. I'm firmly video first in that regard when it comes to a website. Now, of course, Twitter and LinkedIn are totally different animals, and they operate under a different set of rules, and that's a different discoverability engine. But for me, it just makes sense that I'm extracting my answers from the videos that I've been making And that makes up the written blogging content on my site.
Okay. What about you, Rob? Do you have any experience doing blogs and a use case for that?
Over time, in medical marketing, I've either written or had physicians write blog posts for us. And it's nice to have out there. It helps with discoverability for our website, but I don't think we're, and again, we're talking about a very specific niche of healthcare. So our audience is 120,000 people in the United States, maybe. We're hitting it so that it helps us build brand awareness, but I don't think we're changing anybody's mind or necessarily, elevating ourselves to expert status, because everybody in my field thinks they're an expert anyway. So it's just competing egos. So it's SEO. It's acknowledgement that we're within the field that we're in, and it gets people to pick up the phone to ask us the questions they need to ask us. And that's pretty much all I've seen it do in my day-to-day job. But the creation of those blog posts generally are best written by a physician. Sometimes I write them and then they rewrite them, or vice versa. But just it's trying to get blood out of a rock, sometimes trying to get a physician to write an interesting and engaging blog post for your medical website. So
Well, I mean, you guys could also use it on LinkedIn, because I mean, those articles and those things, in order for you to be found, LinkedIn is very literary. So, it's one of those things that you could use there to kind of show your expertise there in LinkedIn, and, talking about being found, using it as a discovery tool. I think that's another use case that you could, potentially use your blog for, so that you can find traffic, or traffic can find you. That's pretty much how I want to use it. And so that's kind of where I started. That's why I started doing it. And so now I have a bank of them, of all these different blogs that I created, and essentially launching my stuff on LinkedIn so that professionals can find me, for the most part. So it's all part of me branding myself, trying to get all this stuff together. But I don't know. I think it's something that I could use for me, per se. I'm not sure how far it goes, or if it's actually moving the needle, but it's just part of discoverability for me. At least that's how I see it. What about you, Dina? Do you have any?
I want to ask you a question. Do you write the blog post first and then do the video, Michelle, or is it the vice versa? Yeah,
I write the blog
think
first.
for my niche, it would be good for me to do it, and I think it would just be helpful for my content period if I were to write a blog post before I actually do the video. It's a form of scripting in a way. It gets me clear on what I want to convey and everything. So for me, it just, especially the garden stuff, it just makes sense to do it. Am I doing it? No. Should I do it? Yes. Will I? I hope so.
Well, I mean, it's goals. We got goals. We got goals. It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
Oh
I'm
my
going for
goodness.
running water this week. That's my goal.
Right. Well, okay. So, all right. So this next question is related to, it's around monetization. And I mean, we're all newbies. we're all trying to find our way in the world here. But I've heard, I actually have some friends who, they're like in book clubs and different things. And so they monetize their blogs. And so, for that particular use case, they're all content creators too, because, they write books and stuff like that. And so they monetize their blogs. And so I don't have any clue how they do it, but I don't know if any of you have, done this or know how this could then help us as creators, how we can monetize our writings. It doesn't necessarily have to be, because I know for you, Keely, you're video first. I get that. But, have you thought about maybe trying to monetize this in some sort of way, maybe through the email version of that, or a newsletter where you put a little bit more into it or whatever, like how you do, Rich. So, I mean, what are your thoughts about that?
You can monetize a blog in terms of like have it a bit like people can have a podcast where they have members only feed as well. So with the RSS feed that you're going to get from a blog, you can also have some of it that's behind a paywall. So there's a few people that do this where they've got like there's a couple of tech blogs that I follow where they've got a regular blog that everyone can see, but then there's also other posts that come out that are members only posts, and so that is literally you just paying a subscription to get their writing on those other days that it isn't sort of public, and that just comes in a separate feed. So that's an obvious way that you can do it, is just literally put up a paywall and send it to people who subscribe. The other thing obviously is just on-screen advertising, on the site advertising with AdSense. That's obviously a massive revenue model for a lot of the a lot of the blogs that just literally have ads down the side, and they're purely blogs and they're making their money from that. And then obviously just selling ad spots on it. For me, the way that I will use it going forward for what I'm doing is it'll just be a conduit to send people through to my other content. And my intention, this is another thing that I'm not doing yet, but is part of the plan, is to just use the blog as a repository for everything else. So all of the videos should have a associated blog post. And I love Keely's approach of just putting the transcript and that being the way people find it and send them through to the video. I will be starting a newsletter that will also be posted as a blog post as well. If people like it there, then they can subscribe to get all of the rest of them. For me, it's just going to be like where I post everything. I post little short tips on Twitter and Instagram, images. That should all be going onto the blog as well. So I see just put like everything onto the blog for that searchability, and then direct people to, if you want to get this consistently on the other platform, then they can find it like that. That's my sort of approach, and monetizing it that way.
I like that.
Does anyone subscribe to any Substack feeds?
Yes, I do.
I'm still trying to figure out really what's the difference between that and just a blog. Is it simply because people don't want to maintain their own thing, and it's a platform? I think that's really it. Yeah, and I know that they do have monetization there.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, is the couple of Substacks that I do, that Medium has the ability to monetize. There's different ways, but there are two locally written Substacks for politics in my area, and so I subscribe to them, and I'm glad I do. I pay them, and they come out 4 days a week with an email that goes, that has a lot of what they're talking about in the email as part of the subscription, but you can go to their website as a subscriber and read the rest of it off of a web page. So Substack is the tools, and who is the creator that's the physician? Keely directed me toward him, the physician that does a lot about the creator space. I started to watch videos from him the other day based on that, and of course you can see that Ali. He was talking about, he has a fairly new video that discusses web content versus Substack versus newsletters and why it's important, and the reasoning that he was giving, because the argument of the video was why you need to create a newsletter. And part of that goes back to the things that we've discussed, have been discussed all the time, is that you don't own your audience when they're part of Facebook or Twitter or YouTube. is that, those people are tied into some other person's platform. And if that platform goes away, you've lost all those people that you've built. And the argument being is that using a newsletter, a subscription newsletter service, you've got their contact information, and you have the ability to communicate to them, sell directly to them, outside of that garden that is Twitter or Facebook or whatever else. And that's kind of the direction I'm going with it, is that if you're going to build an audience, you need to keep the audience engaged, but you also you have to be able to communicate with them outside of those social media channels.
So, quick question: what tools are you guys using, or will use for those who haven't started yet? What are some of the tools that you see? Okay, Kajabi.
See, I was going to, and Michelle will leave her affiliate link for Kajabi in the description. But I dug back in and looked into Substack, and I'm like, can I do that already in Kajabi? And for what I need to do at the level I need to do it, Kajabi is going to be the tool that I will do a newsletter on. And then obviously they've got a blogging function for my website as well. So, I've probably, for my consulting business, have 12, 15 articles up there from the past 2 years. And they've gotten traffic, and I've gotten phone calls, but I need to be serious about it. So I'm going to make the investment in my time to make sure that I'm integrating that into Kajabi so that I've got everything into that ecosphere. At the same time, to go back to what I said a minute ago, again, if Kajabi goes away, what happens? So I will have it so that all of my audience information gets copied over into a Google spreadsheet or something like that. And the thing that always has fascinated or bewildered me, however, is when people will make a video and put it up on YouTube, and then they throw everything away and they just assume that video is going to live a happy, healthy life on YouTube, and they don't have anything archived to create that, be it a script or be it a video files or their editing files or whatever, that's just gone. So I would also argue that, if you're going to keep the names, addresses, phone numbers, email addresses of your user base, that somehow, some way, you take it upon yourself to take the data that's on your blog, take the data that's on your YouTube channel, however, and store it somewhere just in case the world blows up or Google gets bought up by the Chinese government or whatever's next. I don't know.
It's funny you say that, because I had, my original website was a WordPress website, and so I'm new to Kajabi, so I'm starting to move a lot of my things from WordPress to Kajabi. However, most of my blogs already live there. I mean, I've been creating a bank of blogs, a bank of all kinds of things over there on the WordPress site. And then I'm starting to slowly move everything over to kind of get everything in one ecosystem. The one thing that was quite annoying, and because people leave comments on your blogs. Usually it's a bot of some sort, and it's usually annoying, and it's usually pornographic in response or whatever. And it's annoying. So I end up having to go in and delete all those things. But I want it to still be a discoverable type of situation wherever it is. Right now it lives on WordPress. It's going to live in Kajabi eventually. All of them are going to live there. And I'm just sort of shifting and moving things and rebranding a little bit to get things ecosystem. But I had a conversation, with Keely, I guess, talking about those annoying comments and things that people leave on those on your written work. And I'm like, okay, I didn't know how to how to filter that stuff out, even though I do have something on the site that kind of helps with spam, because that's what it is. It's spam. But there are different tools and things that you could use on your stuff to kind of, make that not happen. So far, I haven't seen that on Kajabi yet. And so I'm very thankful for that. But I didn't know if anyone else had like any other tips or things on your written work that to try to keep the weirdness to a minimum. I know, Keely, you use it to like answer questions, and that's how your discoverability gets, happens, because you're actually answering questions and doing different things and all that. And so how is that for you? Like, do you get those annoying spam bot kind of things on your writings? I mean, how do you notice that?
I used to, except I've invested a lot of time and energy into anti-spam and secure protections on my WordPress website. But the best thing I ever did was just turn off comments on it, because that's not where my interaction is. And I don't want people just to interact there. I don't think that replies have anywhere near the algorithmic impact on WordPress as they do on YouTube or Twitter or anything like that, because those social algorithms are trained to give a lot of value and importance to those. Whereas on WordPress is like, oh, this is like just a tiny little fraction of a drop in a bucket. Like, it's nothing. So I steer those conversations into my Discord server, because that's where I have the people who I'm actually really, really responding to. And if somebody wants to engage in a conversation, that's where I take them, or it's on the YouTube video, it's on whatever the case might be. So I think it's one of those very low reward and high risk situations. I just turn off the comments. It's a search engine for me. And that's the best way that I can use it.
Okay. Well, another question for you guys. For those who want to start a blog, what advice would you give someone?
It's not a short-term benefit. It's long-term. It's a little bit of magic. It's a little bit of SEO. It's a little bit of snake oil. You're going to hear so many people approach you and offer to write guest blog posts for you. You're going to be offered so many chances to take, I'm going to double, triple your volume of visitors to your blog type of thing. Just pay me $1,000. Don't. Just don't. Find people within your niche that are friends, that'll give you the whole honest truth, and then just go to YouTube. If you really need to learn to do something, 99% of the time, if it's WordPress related or Kajabi related, well, Kajabi has got good customer support, but if you need to do something, there's a Facebook group or a YouTube channel for free that you can go and get the information that you need to get to fix it. You don't, I say this as a person that wants to sell his services to help people brand themselves, and I see the slight hypocrisy here, but my value add is different in terms of what I'm offering. But the simple stuff in terms of starting a blog and running it on a server and starting that server and picking a server and and installing a theme and all that stuff, it's all available on YouTube. And you can learn it in a few minutes, and it won't cost you a dime.
I'm going to pick up Rob's point, and I'm going to run with it to say that my advice is don't. Honestly, don't. So one of the first things that you learn in the Ship 30 for 30 course is that digital writing is no longer about blogging. If you want to find out what your niche is, what people in your niche respond to, what they're looking for, write on Twitter and LinkedIn, and use the algorithms that are going to be so much more effective to get your message into the right people's brains, and find those people there with your writing rather than writing a blog. that is literally pushing the biggest boulder up the hill that you possibly can. And from there, if you want to then have your property, your paywall, your walled garden, whatever it is, that's where your courses, your other in-depth mentorship, all those things, that's what goes behind the paywall. But your writing is you just giving it all away and then teaching them how to do things or how better to connect or whatever it is that you're selling. That goes behind something else. But digital writing isn't about blogging anymore. It's about getting it out on Twitter and LinkedIn.
I kind of disagree with
my
that
hot
because
take.
I disagree with that.
Go on, Dina, you go.
I'm thinking about the blogs that I still read, and they're good. And it's not okay. I need to step back. I don't completely disagree. I think for the angle that you guys you're talking at about more of the content creator trying to make money by selling courses, that kind of thing, sure, I'll buy it. But when I look at some of the DIY blogs that I read, or Cup of Joe is my favorite, Cup of Joe, J-O, it's not about the things that we are talking about in terms of making a business of content creatorness. And there are a lot of blogs out there that are still doing that. For me, I think there will be some entries that really are not aligned with this goes with a video per se. And a blog is going to be the right place for me to do that and have a nice little package of, for people who find me over here in blog space, great. For people who find me in YouTube, great. Sometimes they're not going to cross. And there are people that will value both sides, and there's going to be people that value one or the other. So I don't think we should be dismissing the traditional blog yet. It's just there's a right time and a right place.
I totally agree with that. I mean, the idea that blogs are dead is just nonsense, frankly. And you might have, learned about how to, make the most out of LinkedIn and Twitter and all this, and that's great. Yeah, there is an audience there, but the whole world isn't there. And when I know that I go and search for things, I read blog posts. There are certain ones that I just read religiously in any case. So those certainly aren't dead to me, and those people are making a fine living out of it. But then there's also, every week I probably read, 5 or 10 blog posts from things that I've searched for, and I've found it on Google. It's taken me to a blog, and I've read the blog, and I've learned what I needed to learn from it. Maybe then I've gone and clicked into, the follow through, and that is, their website, their videos or something like that. I have never searched for that stuff on LinkedIn, the stuff that I'm still using blogs for. So the idea that blogs are dead is just frankly nonsense. Why not be a writer on LinkedIn, on Twitter, but also be posting it to a blog, because you've already created the content? To just dismiss it is just missing a massive, the bigger pond. You're just looking at the LinkedIn side of stuff, which is a small fraction of the world. Why not also post that to a blog so that it is available to everyone, not just those that are on LinkedIn?
Oh, it's available to everybody on a blog, but nobody's going to find it. It's about growing an audience. And if you don't care about growing an audience, then that's fine.
No, you're missing the point. Your advice was, I would say to people, don't start a blog.
Right.
If you're writing content anyway, and you've got a website, presumably, why not be posting the exact same content that you're posting on LinkedIn on a blog, so that you haven't got it in that little walled garden of LinkedIn? There's so many people aren't on LinkedIn, and yet you might well be serving your audience on LinkedIn, and that's great. Definitely keep doing that. I'm not saying, ignore LinkedIn now and just make everything blogs, but why wouldn't you post that high quality written content that you're posting there to make it available for everyone who isn't on LinkedIn as well? Because to say that, people aren't reading blogs is just nonsense. I am reading blogs. I am here. I am one of 6 people, and Dina's just said the same. I read blogs that are blogs that I follow. But then I also discover blogs that have got information. And I'm guessing that some of these blogs that I've discovered with information are just the sort of thing that you're talking about, that you do yourself for your own videos of posting your transcripts. So it works. The blogs do work. It's you've yourself just given the case of how to use a blog for your videos. So why tell people on this podcast, don't make a blog? It just seems it's just totally in conflict with everything that you said in the first half.
Okay.
Ooh, the kids are
Yeah, Keely, and you're
fighting. The
stupid.
kids are fighting.
No. But
I
it's
still
not
stand by
fighting.
what
it's
I
just
said.
like
If you're talking about
Jane,
starting
you
a blog,
ignorant.
don't.
You know.
Start
Holy
something else.
fuck.
No.
God damn, this
It's
is awesome.
Well, I don't know.
It's
I
just
mean,
that-
if
it's
you
just, we're not fighting. It's just a difference of opinion. But the question was,
Yeah.
what would you say to someone thinking of starting a blog? And to just immediately shoot it down and say, I would say, don't do it. Well, how about if somebody really enjoys writing as well? Some people really enjoy the process of writing. Maybe
All
LinkedIn
right.
isn't the
Yeah.
right place
I
for
mean,
them.
if you're a writer and you want to write because you love writing, that's different. We're content
Yes.
creators because we're in this for a business. And I thought that's kind of the angle that we were aiming for. I'm not
Yeah, but it
talking
is,
about
but
people who want to write for a hobby. That's totally different. That's
No, but that's
not us.
Yeah, but the question was, what would you advice would you give to somebody wanting to start a blog? That's the advice, and to say don't, I think
Oh,
is
okay.
a really
Okay, if we're
bad
talking to
advice, isn't
everybody,
it?
then fine. Yes, some people should start
Well,
a
no,
blog.
no, content creators
Okay, here.
who are creating a business.
Hey, blogs are content. So when you create a
Yeah.
blog, you are creating content.
There you go.
Okay, so I'm going to answer that question. I'm going to answer it. I would tell the person to reflect on the blogs that make them want to start a blog. You know, you've seen something obviously that you've liked, and I would say to really look at those and decide if that's the right thing for your niche. If it's a really good one, do you really think you could do it too? And think about the reasons you shouldn't do it. And, you know, all the normal things that we talk about, consistency, you know, do you know what you're talking about? That kind of thing. I wouldn't dissuade somebody from doing it, but I'd make sure that they understood why they were starting it. Because let's face it, that's what I started at. That's what I wanted to have, was a blog. But it wasn't until I started really looking at putting it together, it just led more to the visual aspects of the home place, and 100% blog wasn't the answer for me. So it took me some time to get there. So if I wanted to help somebody who was starting out and they thought that the blog was the answer, I'd help them parse through that to make sure that that was the right thing. I wouldn't say it's not the right thing. I just want to make sure it's the right one. Yeah. Go ahead.
Here's another question. If you are creating content already for other platforms, walled garden platforms, what reason would you have for not also posting that to a blog?
I don't.
'Cause
That is not how I interpreted the question that Michelle asked.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well,
Okay,
I would
so
argue, I would answer Alec's question by saying there's certain things that I might deem, you know, proprietary information that I might only want to sell to a certain group of people. I might write something that dances around it, but I don't want to put it in the blog because I want a specific audience to get that particular thing for any amount of compensation, be that an email address or a fee. But I will go back again to what Keely and I were saying in answering the question, what do you tell somebody that might want to do a blog and say don't? You know, listen to us and why we don't think you should start a blog, and then do what you're going to do. And the reality is I would much rather have somebody say, you know, here's the pain that you're going to go through. This is the things that you need to know ahead of time. I've been in this hole. I know how to get out. And so, you know, it might be a little bit of slapping across the face, a little bit of Gary V's FU type of mentality, but it's just saying to them, listen, you know, don't do it and here's why. Now go do it is probably a whole nother thing. You've got to hear both sides of the argument. We can't just paint this to be this little fairyland where everybody can have a blog and everything is going to happen. I want you to know that it's going to be 20, 30, 40 posts before you get somebody to bite. Just like, you know, we've discussed about this particular podcast. We're going down the road. Would I say if somebody asked me, would you start a podcast tomorrow? You know, I would say probably the same thing as a blog. Doesn't mean I wouldn't do it.
Well, this was a rousing conversation. I really, really enjoyed this tonight. I was not expecting the dichotomy, but you know what? That's why we do this. We do this so that we can share opinions, we can share our expertise and all the different things. So look, if you're looking to start a blog, hey, 3 people say no and 3 people say yes. So you choose. Okay? It's on you, boo. Deuces.
Thanks for hopping into our Creators Pod. If you enjoyed it, we'd love if you would subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and tell all of your friends. Check out the video version on our YouTube channel, Creators Pod. The Creators Pod is produced by C22 Media, Alec Johnson, Dina Taylor, Michelle Lawrence, Rich Graham, Rob Vaules, and me, Keely Dunn. Thanks, friends.